Hello, everyone. We are a little late, and as you have noticed, we are not on a Friday. We are on a Thursday. Welcome to the Entrepreneurial Show. My name is Bina Bendale, and I am pleased to sit here with Connie Dunn. As you know, I don't introduce the people on this show because I always butcher it, and I know I do. And this girl has literally a laundry list of expertise behind her name. But it's also very special about this one because she's also a mom with special needs, and she has a business. She recently got married, went to Disneyland, to Orlando with her husband, and had a blast. When we spoke back in May, it was like two peas in a pod.
Mhm.
So, welcome, Connie. Thank you for being here. Tell us, who are you and what is it that you do?
Oh, me. I don't know. It changes from day to day, but basically, kind of me in a nutshell. First and foremost, I'm mom. I just absolutely love being a mom. It's just my passion, and it's really what has inspired me and propelled me to do most of what I do.
Mm,
I've overcome a lot of trauma in my life, went through a lot of things as a child, as a teenager, and as an
yes.
adult. My heart was always to give my children a good, stable home. So everything I've done has been centered around that. I was a stay-at-home mom for many years and I did some entrepreneurial stuff then. I had a house cleaning business. I did some office management, but wanted it to work around me being able to stay at home. Then in my 40s, I became a single mom. I had four children at home, and my two oldest are biological. My two youngest I adopted, and they have multiple severe disabilities. And I knew that I had to figure out something quick. I had to find a way to be able to take care of my family and to give us some stability. So I put myself through nursing school. After nursing school, I went into surgery, then I went into administration, and then my love
Can
for
I stop you
psychology.
real quick? I want to
Yeah.
remind you, and I want to remind people to hear, you are a single mother with four children, two of which are your biological and two that you adopted, special kids, special needs,
Right.
and you put yourself through nursing school. I want to acknowledge you for that. Most people, I went to nursing school and I was just me, myself, and I struggled. So I want to take a minute to celebrate you for that because fuck yeah. How was that challenge for you? You're now mom and you're going to school and clinicals
Mhm.
all by yourself and no support.
Yeah.
You
No,
had support, but lack of support, should I say.
yeah, in a lot of ways, I had no parents and I had no siblings.
Mm.
So it was my faith, really my children. It was my children and me. That was the team. I was just focused because of the way that I grew up. It actually prepared me. I was very organized. I was able to cut out anything in my life that wasn't absolutely necessary. TV was not a part of my life. Hobbies were not a part of my life. Very little social time. And I just focused on school because I knew that I had a purpose. My children needed me, and I needed to make a way, and I needed to show them that it could be done.
So would you say like the mama bear kicked in?
100%. That was me. Absolutely. I was so focused. There was nothing that was going to interfere with that because I knew that I had to be the one to take care of everyone.
And I say this lovingly because when I heard your story the first time, made me cry.
Mm.
Right? Remember if you remember that a couple of months ago. And still to this day, when I hear this story, it still puts me in awe because entrepreneurship is very much in that same sense of the determination, the purpose, the drive,
Right.
right? It goes back to the same pillars. Now I'm relating it to children and nursing school and the drive and the purpose behind it. Some people might challenge me today and say, you know, those are two separate, different things. Do you feel that they're two separate things, or do you feel like that drive, that purpose? Because you've done successfully both a business and you've graduated and you've done very well for yourself. I want to congratulate you for that first. But do you find that it's the same, or do you find that it's different in the sense of the two?
They very much overlap. Each of the skills that I use in being a mom and running a home and being a manager of my home, organized, taking care of children with special needs, appointments, medications, all these different types of things that I have to manage is exactly the same skills that I use in creating my own business. Like you said, you've got to have drive, you have to have creativity, you have to have focus and organization, but also flexibility
Yeah.
and being able to grow and to learn because things change and they're not always the way that we expect. And we have to be adaptable
Yeah.
and to be able to overcome those situations. I used all the same skills and characteristics in both areas.
Do you feel that life has turned you in these scenarios for a reason. I believe my children are my blessings. They chose me. I didn't choose them, but that's how I believe my life was meant. I believe that I was meant to be a nurse because I knew I wanted to be a nurse ever since I was walking. I've always known I wanted to be a nurse. I feel that my children chose me, right? Because all three have special needs. And we've spoken about this on our call previously. And now with me adapting that same mentality, that same drive, that same mindset, and then placing that into a business, which turned very successful, and yours is also very successful. Do you find that entrepreneurship or your children also gave you that motivation to leave bedside at a point?
Yes, because that's part of being an entrepreneur and being able to adapt and do what works. In my life, that's what I've done. I've done what works. And when it doesn't work, I change it. I've done it in my home and in my career.
What is one of the things as you went through? Do you mind if I ask you a personal question?
Go right ahead.
I have to ask. Can you tell people more of your story of when you decided to adopt and what the challenges were for that? And
I will share some, but I'll
yeah,
also be discreet for
right.
the protection of my children. But I grew up, my mom was in and out of mental institutions. And so I didn't live with her very much. I didn't know my dad. So I was in and out of foster homes, some with families, different types of living situations. And I knew in my heart that one day I wanted to be able to at least save one child from having to feel the way that I felt.
Mm,
And it was just a hope and a dream that I had. I was told at one time I wouldn't be able to have children. And by the grace of God, I was able to have two biological children, but then I wasn't able to have any more. And that is what really prompted me. Maybe I can do this. Maybe I can be able to adopt. And so I adopted my first one. She's 22 now, and I got her when she was 6 months old. I met her when she was about a month old, and she was born with all of her organs on the outside of her body. When she's paralyzed, she's in a wheelchair, and she has lots of different conditions that she deals with on a regular basis, but she's also done quite well. She has graduated from school.
hey,
She works a
congratulations.
part-time job. She's doing absolutely
Wow.
amazing. Yes, she's doing wonderful. And then about 6 years after I got her, I adopted another little girl that was from Hong Kong, and she had been exposed to meth, and she has disabilities as well. And so they both have multiple physical
Right.
disabilities that they deal with. And my youngest, one of hers, is she's borderline legally blind, and
Right.
she has asthma, but she has some other things too, more personal things. But I just knew in my heart, after I did the first time, I thought, I've already done it once. Why not do it again? I thought that I had to learn so much to take care of the first one that I had adopted, that I knew that I had skills and I knew the knowledge in my heart for that. And my other children had developed a heart for that as well, that
Yeah.
servant heart and that compassion. And so to adopt another one just seemed natural. And when I saw her, I knew that I was her mom. And so I adopted her from Hong Kong. And
Mm.
she's doing quite well. She actually volunteers at the hospice agency where I work. So she's there with me on days that I work as well.
And that's one of the best parts, right? Is like you're able to teach these children what you do, how compassionate you are, the empathy level that you have is just out of the world. I want people to understand two questions. What was one of the bigger struggles you faced that you overcame in a personal world? And you don't have to give details of the actual incident. And how did that similarity go through in your business world? Does that overlap? I've noticed an overlap in my world, especially with having children with special needs.
Mhm.
We're able to navigate the system better in our business world. But when I try to explain it, some people might be like, oh, that might be a one off thing. Or like, I have a very good knack about listening ears. I call them Dumbo ears, but it's a superpower of mine because my child, Rohan, was not verbal up until about a year ago. And now the little kid doesn't shut up. But I was able to have to pick up his cues with just a cry. And now in my business world, it became my superpower. Is there something with you that became your superpower here?
Honestly, I can think of several things, but what comes to mind that's the most significant is just overcoming my fear.
Ah,
Because when I went to adopt, coming from my background and not having family and coming from poverty seemed so far from something I would be able to do. And then not only to adopt, but to adopt a child that was paralyzed and on a feeding tube and all these other things she had at the time. It was that love and passion to do what I knew I was being called to do, help me overcome that fear, I would do whatever it took. I was not going to let fear, not about finances, not about people's opinions, not about time, not about anything get in the way, because I knew I was called to do something. And I have turned that same thing with my business, because I have been called to help women overcome trauma and abuse.
Yeah.
It's a purpose. It's a calling. It has made me get on camera. It has made me learn technology. It has made me learn so much in business. It's made me create an online program, which for years I would have told anybody they were crazy at the thought of me doing that. And it's launched me to be writing books and
Right.
those type of things. And so it really has. It's that it gave me courage. My children gave me courage, and that courage transferred over into being able. I can build a business. I can create programs. I can write a book. And I have, just like with everything that I learned from my children, I had a big purpose and someone needed me. In my business, I have a purpose and people need me.
I want people to hear that, because the number one thing I coach around, and we have multiple conversations, the number one thing, if anyone reads my post, if they're in my program or my mentorship or my preceptorship or in any of my program, the number one thing I tell people, it's a purpose.
Yeah.
If you don't have a reason, they're like people that are still seeking clarity, people who are still confused, which is fine. You can be confused. There's nothing wrong with that, right? But that's why you hire coaches, to gain that clarity. But people like you, people like me, who knew early on that you're talking about helping these women overcome trauma. It's a purpose behind you, because you have the personal experience, which you don't need to get through on this call right now. But whatever you went through, you put in the back of your head, no one needs to feel like that.
Right.
You were that voice, which is when people ask me, they go, why is it that you became, I always quote the successful, right? Because my purpose is helping parents with special needs or special kids find their voice. As we both know, sometimes our voice gets silenced.
Right.
When was one time that you felt that you were silenced, and how did that help you with your business?
As far as what I felt the most, there were events I would go to with other people. And a lot of times it's even been at church with church groups and things that I had gone to. And I realized people really didn't understand what it was like to have children with the needs and considerations that they weren't able to do, and how that affected them emotionally. I had been at events and things were planned and people were like, oh, it'll all work for you. Everything will be fine. It'll all be good. And then we get there and it doesn't work for my children. It doesn't work for getting into bathrooms. It doesn't work for environmental things, their time, their schedule, all of these type of things. It really made me feel unheard, that nobody understood. And I've seen that a lot. I've seen it in a lot of people that I've come across that have children with special needs. There's this feeling of isolation because other people don't understand. They really don't understand. Your schedule is different. Your sleep is different. How you plan a vacation is
Way different.
drastically
Different. Yeah.
People would try to talk to us about going on camping trips. And I'm like, you really don't understand.
We can't do camping trips. Like
Right.
that does not work.
And then trying to voice that, and then people think that they understand, but they really don't. Sometimes it does make you feel silenced and isolated in that. We adapt, we learn, and our mama bear comes out and we take care of them. We learn what we can do and what we can't do, and we make it work. So we don't go camping. I gave up on that. I quit trying to prove to people that we could do it. I quit trying to make it work, and our whole family struggling and being stressful. And I'm like, you know what? We're going to stay in a resort that's got 3 or 4 bedrooms and we're going to have fun. Because that's what works for my children.
That's what works. We don't do Thanksgiving anymore, or we don't do anything in the evening, because Rohan is very adamant about his evening routine. And now that he's getting older, he's 10, right? He's getting taller, he's getting heavier, he's getting stronger.
Yeah.
And I don't think people realize, they're like, oh, it's just one night. Why can't you just make an arrangement? And I'm like, because I don't want to come home and get my ass whooped.
Yeah.
Like, your kids are not violent. Mine are. Like, Rohan's violent. So I don't want to do that. So it's like that silence of, it's okay. It'll come up. We can do this. And in my head, I'm like, why can't we do this during the day? Like, can we do like
Mhm.
a day Thanksgiving?
Yeah.
And we don't do it anymore in my house because it just doesn't work. Some people are working, some people come up and want to have the Thanksgiving dinner. In my head, I'm like, yo, we can do what we want. We're not pilgrims, we're not the Indians. Let's be real. This has just been, it's been taken out of context for so many years now. And I hear you on that. We got offered to go somewhere and we tried it. It was snowing. We went with a dear friend of ours, is my husband's dear friend. And they were like, come with us, snow. We go to the snow. Guess what? I learned Ron does not deal with all white.
Mm.
He hated the snow.
Yeah.
He liked being in the snow, but the all white was so overwhelming for him that he screamed bloody murder
Yeah.
the entire time. And now guess what? Someone's, oh, do you want to go? Do you want to go to the snow? I'm like, nope.
Because something that's fun for them can be traumatic for our children.
Yeah. I was like, I just won't do it. Just like with
Yeah.
you with the camping.
Right.
You know? How is our things now with your children? What was one of the main things for other parents that are hearing this, especially for parents with special needs? Reach out to us. I'm an advocate. You can reach out to Connie. If you're in a situation where you feel isolated, you don't feel heard. I know this is an entrepreneurial talk, but I really want people to know that we also are advocates. And if you need to be heard, please call us. Message us. Connie is great. She is a great person. I promise you she'll answer your call. And if she doesn't, I will. I want to make sure people are hearing this that are out
Yeah.
there right now. The big question is, what would you tell other mothers out there that do have special needs children and they still want to follow their dreams? What would you tell them?
As far as the mothers following their dreams or their children following their
Their
dreams?
mothers following dreams, because we know that the children, the mama bear
Mhm.
kicks in. We all
Right.
know our
Right.
mama bears are 10x compared to other parents. Our mama bear instincts is way out of me, and you can talk about that for hours because it's just out of the world. Like people don't understand our mama bear versus a typical mama bear.
Right.
But what I want parent moms or dads out there
Mhm.
that do have children with special needs, I want them to realize that one, you're not alone. Two, you can be very successful like me and like you, have their own business, follow their path, because it's not, what advice would you give them? I want them to hear what you have to say. The
Well, one of the important things is to always remember everyone's situation is different
Yeah.
and each person's is valid. And
Right.
everyone has to work that out for themselves. For me, work-life balance is very important. I'm always going to put my children first, and everything that I do is going to be to benefit my children. But at the same time, I understood I was a stay-at-home mom for many years,
Right.
and I loved that time. If anybody can do that, it's beautiful. But you don't have to just do that because there are other options as well. One of the things that we can show our children by being able to have time with them and build that support. If we have children with special needs and we're going to have a business, we're going to have help. We can't do it by ourselves because we're going to burn out. We're going to get compassion fatigue. We're going to get exhausted. Our health is going to deteriorate. But that's part of being an entrepreneur, is finding a way and making it happen and
Yeah.
saying, you know what, I can do this. Even whether it's 10 hours a week, whether it's 20 hours a week, everyone can do something. It's whether it's writing, whether it's creating something, whether it's coaching like we do. There's so many different ways that you can adapt and mold it to your unique situation. When we do that, not only are we fulfilling something in ourselves, but we're showing our children that with challenges, we can still make it happen. I would never want my children to feel like because of their disabilities, I couldn't do things. There's been times in my life that I might have only been able to do it 5 or 10 hours a week. And there's other times that I can do 40 hours a week. And you know what? I am totally capable to make those adjustments as need be, because that's part of being an entrepreneur.
Yeah. I get to make those decisions.
Mhm.
I get to make those choices because I want people to hear this, that when you make these choices or decisions, right? You can, as long as you're doing one thing in your business, you're successful. I've stated this multiple times where it's just like, as long as you're helping one person, I feel that I'm successful. And we have to remind ourselves that everyone's life, I don't want anyone to come across saying we're talking about children with special needs. Every single person has their own uniqueness. Every single person has their own special quirkiness, special needs that you can adapt into your life. At the same time, when you are adapting that, there's also choices that you can make. People know that I've been sick for about a month. I was out for about a month before I did my big Supermom CEO event. People realized I didn't do anything for a month, and I was okay with that.
Yeah.
And I did my thing, and now it comes up. Now this is my first entrepreneurial talk since I've been sick, to be honest, because sometimes you have to take those things into consideration and realize that your specialty and your uniqueness is still going to be there, but sometimes you have to take yourself priority. So when you're working your 5-hour weeks, your children is your priority. My children are my priority. At this moment, my health is now my priority.
Right.
And I think what I am hearing you say is that you can be very successful in entrepreneurship. You being successful, whatever it is, but give grace to yourself.
Yes.
And remind yourself that you're still human. So if you're working 5 hours or 40 hours, it's not going to make a difference as long as you're happy and pursuing the purpose of what you want to do in life.
Yeah. And as long as and having peace with where you are and yourself, accepting yourself as human and not feeling like we have to fit into this box. Like you said, you're able to still be mom, still be successful, but also take time off when you needed to. Who made the rule that makes you not successful or not able to do what you're called to do? It's a short season and life fluctuates.
Yeah.
And you're still showing up.
I like how you said that because this reminds me of Simone Biles. When she was in Tokyo, she got the twisties, as we all know, and she decided, or she chose, I'm not competing. She chose her. And because she chose her, she came back 10 times stronger at the Paris Olympics. It's a testament. Sometimes what I've learned, especially with my children, is that I do have to take a step back. Sometimes I do have to, comes up, I'm going to be very honest right now, probably get in trouble for this, but my son's ABA therapy. They're giving me a hard time, and they are doing things behind my back that I'm not really appreciative of. And now they're saying that, well, we can't double serve when some ABA is here and another therapist is here and they can't overlap.
Right.
I had an issue with this ABA therapy when we were talking about community outings, and this went all the way to the CEO to the COO. And I'm like, can you write this and give me this in writing that you can't do X, Y, and Z? And I swear to you, there's a reason why I'm stating this now. But when we talk about purpose, when we talk about drive, when we talk about being that mama bear, right? This is the part that drives me to be a better entrepreneur. So people are not facing what I'm dealing with right here, right now. And those are raw conversations that I have to deal with. And when I'm not going to call this company out, I'm not going to lie. They're going to call me up. They're going to tell me, oh, we can't do X, Y, and Z. I'm going to be very honest with them. They're like, when was this conversation? And when was I going to be involved in the conversation? You guys have now made a choice for me and my child,
right,
without the decision of me being involved in it. So you have now taken away my voice.
Right.
In entrepreneurship, it can go in where this is the blessing of entrepreneurship is now when you're talking about women with overserving them with trauma, giving them that voice to speak up. So that's where my role is. Me and this agency are going to fight. I'm going to go back and we're going to have a big battle. But guess what? It's going to push me to build my center. This is going to push me to be like, you know what? Fuck all you guys. No one's going to come back into my house and tell me what I can and cannot do. People have to realize with parents with special needs, when we have therapies, our exposure's out. If you say you're walking into a ticking time bomb, you probably are, my friend. But it's probably going to force me to go. My point is with that is like, how do you, when you're talking about women going up, like how do you help them overcome these balances or these situations so they have a voice which is very similar with what I'm doing, but I'm doing correlating it with the special needs part. How do you correlate that to the women you're helping?
How I help women is they have to believe in themselves that there is a purpose and that they are specifically chosen to go to be this fighter, this mama bear, this warrior, to stand up against things that are not fair. We live in a world of people that are not thinking about those left behind, those that don't have a voice, those that aren't able to stand up and fight for themselves. And so we are the ones that are chosen to do that. I help women believe in themselves. When you see testimonies of what people can do, what people can overcome, and when you give them their why, it's amazing what women can do. If they have somebody that believes in them and supports them, speaks words of encouragement over them, helps them to heal, gives them that safe place, and then reminds them of what they're here for and who needs them, women can walk through fire. We can overcome anything. If we have somebody that believes in us and if we have a why.
That is beautifully said. It's very important for your voice to be heard.
Yeah.
Regardless of whatever it is that we're doing. Parents of special kids, womanhood, fatherhood, whatever it is. If you look at helping women with trauma, helping parents with special kids, the parallel behind both of them is the lack of voice, the lack of support, the lack of empowerment. And it goes hand in hand on what it is people are doing. But that's what I feel coaching is all about.
Mm-hmm.
Teaching them that.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, regardless if you're teaching them on diabetic care or you're advocating for nurses or you're being an advocate for somewhere else or you're doing, I can name over 100,000 different avenues of what we're
Right.
doing. But I think it's very clear that coaches at the end of the day, you're a voice, a reason, and that support for that particular person. And that is special.
Right. It really is because we hold that space for people to be heard. As far as being silenced, so many people have gone through different things and have felt silenced, felt not heard. And because of that, they've not been able to process what they've gone through and they get stuck. And when we can be that safe place for them to be heard, to be accepted unconditionally, to be able to process through that, we become a catalyst to help them reach what they were created to be.
That is so beautiful. I think I needed to hear that today. So I want to say thank you. With a lot of stuff being behind the scenes in my world, I think I needed to hear that today. For everyone out there, I know there's a me and 10x that outside this world that you just helped in this past 35 minutes.
I'm grateful for that. That's what we're here for.
Yeah. Our stories were very different in very ways, but when we spoke, we had a very two peas in a pod type of relationship. And anyone out here, if you are suffering, if you have these silent struggles, if you're a woman having some major traumas, please reach out to Connie. We will make sure her link, her bio, everything is within the links that we have out. But also just remind each other to be compassionate, to be heard. Is there anything else you would like to tell the audience? Any last words or anything that you would like to voice to anybody that can hear you today?
Anyone can overcome whatever they've gone through. If I can do it, anyone can. I'm not superhuman. I've leaned in on my faith and chosen to believe I could do things, even if I was afraid I couldn't. We are all created for purpose. We all have great things that we can do, and the world needs us to do those things. There are people out there believing you and that will support you.
Like I said, I needed to hear that today. So I appreciate you and I thank you for that. And just like everyone else, thank you for listening. Thank you for being here today. We are almost at the top of the hour. Connie was unable to make it on a Friday, so I can do whatever the heck I want and decided, hey, we can do it on any time we wanted to do it. I don't have to be strict, but it's just the rawness that I want people to hear. It's the rawness that these are just raw conversations. You didn't know what I was talking. I didn't know what questions was coming up until intuitionally it happened. And I want to thank everybody that's listening to this. If you want to get a hold of Connie, please do. This will be aired throughout the weekend. We will take it down on Monday. And then just like always, please can subscribe the YouTube channel. This will come back out in about 6 weeks and will get recirculated in that time frame as well. Thank you, Connie, so much for being here. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me. It's always a pleasure. I just love spending time with you. I feel like we just sit and have coffee and everybody else is just watching.
You know, we should have had coffee because it is 5 o'clock almost. We should have
Well,
had.
for you, see, it's almost 8 o'clock. I worked 9 hours today, so I'm about ready for bed.
I apologize.
You can have your coffee. I'm going to have sleepy time tea.
I did have my coffee. I was having it. Please stay on afterwards and we will reconvene and I'll see you guys all next Friday. Next Friday, I will not be here actually because I am going to be in Arizona for a Transcendence with Alok. So we will not have a live next Friday, but it will pick up the week after that. All right, everyone. See you guys in 2 weeks.